Welcome 1988, a small silver-colored coin slipped quietly into the pockets and purses of Americans across the country. It was unassuming, tiny in stature, yet mighty in the role it played in everyday life. The one-dime coin, worth 10 cents on the surface, bore the face of Franklin D. Roosevelt, the beloved 32nd President of the United States, whose image had graced the dime since 1946. But behind one particular 1988 dime lay a tale unlike any other, a story of mystery, rarity, and a face value rumored to be $88 million. Not just any dime, this specific coin's journey would make collectors hold their breath, and its legend would stretch far beyond its copper-nickel blend that it began as a normal minting year. The U.S. Mint, with facilities in Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco, was churning out millions of dimes for circulation. Most of them were standard-issue coins, with precise engravings, clear mint marks, and the expected weight of 2.268 grams. But within that sea of metal discs, a few coins emerged that defied expectations. Something was different. Something was off. And for the right collector, that difference could translate into unimaginable value. The mystery started surfacing in the early 2000s when a seasoned numismatist at a Florida coin show stumbled upon a 1988 dime that didn't quite match the others. It had an odd weight variation, almost unnoticeable to the untrained eye, and the finish looked slightly off. On closer inspection under magnification, the coin revealed a unique die clash, an imperfection caused when the obverse and reverse dies strike each other without a planchet in between, leaving ghost-like images on future coins. That would have been rare enough, but this particular dime also bore microscopic letters near Roosevelt's neck that seemed almost etched by hand, not by machine. It wasn't just an error, it was an enigma. Collectors began buzzing. Word of the mysterious 1988 dime spread through coin forums, conventions, and auction houses. Soon, similar examples began to surface, each with slight differences: a missing mint mark here, a double die there, a curious reverse pattern that appeared to mimic older designs. Theories flourished. Some said a rogue mint employee was behind it, experimenting with dies after hours. Others claimed these dimes were prototypes for a new alloy blend, tested covertly and never meant to reach the public. A more outrageous theory suggested that one of these dimes contained nanogram traces of a rare earth metal embedded into its core, making it uniquely valuable to scientific institutions. None of these theories were ever confirmed, but the mystery only increased demand at a auction. These dimes began fetching 5 figures, then 6. In 2014, one pristine example of the 1988 mystery dime was sold at a private auction for a reported $2.3 million. It had full bands on the torch, flawless surfaces under magnification, and that same unexplained marking near the neckline. But that sale was just the beginning. The legend grew, not just because of the coin's errors or its beauty, but because of what it represented, a key to a bigger mystery within U.S. Mint history. Rumors began swirling about a hidden vault within the Philadelphia Mint, sealed and untouched since the late 1980s. According to a former employee's anonymous letter sent to a popular coin blog, this vault held an experimental run of dimes, perhaps as few as 88 pieces, that were part of a secret project codenamed Silver Echo. This project, the letter claimed, was initiated under a hush-hush agreement between the U.S. Treasury and a private metals contractor exploring cost-effective alternatives to traditional coinage materials. The letter claimed these 88 coins were supposed to be destroyed after testing, but some slipped into circulation due to an administrative oversight, or intentional action. Suddenly, the face value $88 million rumor began to make sense. Not because the coin itself was worth that much individually, but because collectors believed that these 88 coins, if found and assembled together, might hold a combined collectible value of up to $88 million, given their rarity, mystique, and demand among high-end investors. From that point forward, the 1988 dime became something of a holy grail in the coin collecting world. Collectors worldwide began inspecting their change with renewed enthusiasm, combing through coin rolls from banks, and attending estate sales hoping to find one of the remaining pieces. Coin dealers reported sharp increases in inquiries about 1988 dimes, and even ordinary dimes from that year began to appreciate in value due to the increased attention that in 2019, another remarkable 1988 dime surfaced. This one, discovered in an old coin jar in Kansas, exhibited a peculiar mirror-like finish typically found only on proof coins, yet it bore no mint mark to suggest it had been produced in San Francisco. Weighing slightly more than average and exhibiting reverse design details not found on any other known dime, this coin was sent to multiple grading agencies. Each one confirmed its authenticity, yet none could explain its anomalies. The coin sold for $4.7 million later that year at a collector's convention in Tokyo. Speculation was now off the charts. Some collectors believed the coins were more than rare errors, they were the result of a covert operation linked to Cold War activities. One conspiracy suggested these coins were made using repurposed foreign coin dies or metal obtained from dismantled nuclear testing equipment. The idea was ludicrous to most numismatists, but it captured the imagination of the public. YouTube videos, podcasts, and documentaries began to chronicle the lore of the 1988 dime. It was no longer just about metal and mint marks, it had become a symbol of discovery, curiosity, and the thrill of the hunt. More recently, in 2023, a group of collectors came forward claiming to possess 17 of the rumored 88 special dimes. They announced plans to form a private trust, offering shares in their collective coin trove and estimating the group's overall value at over $30 million. Experts debated the legitimacy of such a move, but the stunt only reignited global interest in these dimes. From Dubai to Seoul, coin enthusiasts were captivated by the idea that a small American coin could become a luxury asset. What makes the 1988 dime story so compelling isn't just its speculative value, or even the errors and rumors, it's the idea that something so small, something people handle every day without thought, could carry a mystery so big. Every 1988 dime now carries a shadow of potential. Every scratch, every marking, every variation is examined with surgical precision, all in the hopes that one might possess the legendary coin. There are, of course, skeptics. Some numismatists argue that the $88 million face value is more myth than reality, born of internet chatter and collector lore. But even they admit that something about the 1988 dime feels different. It's not just a 10-cent coin, it's a story, a puzzle, and perhaps, for a lucky few, a ticket to fortune.to. This day, the U.S. Mint has issued no official statement regarding the special dimes. Requests for Freedom of Information Act documents about experimental coin projects from 1988 have been met with heavily redacted responses. Former employees refuse to comment. It's as if the truth is hidden in plain sight, like the dimes themselves, circulating freely, waiting for someone to notice. Collectors continue their search, flipping over dimes one by one, hoping for that gleam, that error, that clue. And as long as the mystery endures, so too does the legend of the 1988 one-dime coin, its face value eternally linked to the number 88, not just in its year, but in its mythologized monetary worth. Whether it's a clever coincidence, a calculated hoax, or a genuine numismatic miracle, the 1988 dime has carved out its own chapter in coin collecting history. One thing is certain, when it comes to coins, sometimes the smallest denomination holds the biggest story. And the 1988 dime? It just might be the biggest story of them all. Next, here's a 7,000+ word, unique, engaging, and story-driven script for your YouTube coin channel, centered around the 1997 one-dime coin and its legendary $97 million face value, full of mystery, history, intrigue, and high-stakes collector's drama, in the quiet hum of an old coin shop nestled between a tailor's storefront and a forgotten antiques bookstore in downtown Chicago. A small, silver coin sat beneath a glass case. It gleamed under the warm, yellowed lights, modest in appearance, easy to overlook. To most, it looked like an ordinary 10-cent piece. But to those who knew, really knew, it was something more. Something far more dangerous. Something worth millions. The coin in question was a 1997 dime. Roosevelt's profile, stern and unchanged, stared left, as it always had since the mid-20th century. The edge was reeded, like every other dime before and after it. The back bore the same torch, the olive branch, the oak. But there was something about this particular coin that defied explanation. It had surfaced first in a private auction in 2004, mysteriously listed with an opening bid of $2 million. At first, everyone assumed it was a mistake. A typo. Perhaps an experimental minting error from a different denomination. No. It was verified, authenticated, and analyzed. The results? Genuine U.S. Mint production. No known errors. No known anomalies. And yet, the coin changed hands that day for $3.1 million to a shadowed buyer who paid in bearer bonds and left no trace. What followed over the next 2 decades was the stuff of legend. Coin forums buzzed. Collectors whispered. Experts argued. The 1997 dime, they said, was just a dime. And yet, the story said otherwise. To understand the story of this dime, you have to go back. Not to 1997. Earlier. Much earlier. To 1965. That was the year the U.S. Mint stopped making silver dimes. The precious metal became too costly. From then on, clad coins, copper-nickel sandwiches, took their place. But among coin circles, rumors of hidden silver mintings continued to circulate. A few escaped into circulation. Most were destroyed. Some say they never existed. But what if the technology developed then didn't just stop with silver? What if the U.S. Mint experimented with something else, something they never wanted the public to know? Jump to 1997. A relatively quiet year in numismatics. No grand redesigns. No famous errors. Or so it seemed. In the Philadelphia Mint, a small team of engineers worked in a restricted section of the facility. Officially, they were tasked with security testing. Unofficially, they were experimenting with anti-counterfeiting technology so advanced, it bordered on science fiction. One of their prototypes involved microlaser engraving, undetectable to the human eye, hidden in the metallic striations of the coin's design. It was said that they developed a way to embed serial numbers smaller than red blood cells into the metal itself, unreadable without highly specialized equipment. The goal? A perfectly traceable currency, unforgeable and untraceable by ordinary means. The idea never went public. The funding mysteriously disappeared. The team was disbanded, but not before a test batch of 12 dimes was accidentally mixed into general production. The Mint never admitted to the leak. They had no proof. They didn't need any. The batch was shredded, destroyed, forgotten, except one escaped, the one that landed in a coin roll, passed from a vending machine in suburban Pennsylvania to a college student buying a bottle of soda. He never thought anything of it. It sat in his dorm drawer for years, forgotten, until one day he dumped his change jar into a Coinstar machine and the coin jammed the mechanism. It wouldn't scan. It wouldn't weigh correctly. The machine rejected it, flagged it for error, the student shrugged, pocketed it, and went on with his day. That was the last time the coin was touched without gloves. In 2004, it re-emerged in the auction house. When tested, something strange happened. Under high-magnification laser scanners, the coin revealed its secrets, lines of microtext embedded into Roosevelt's eye. A string of alphanumeric code. When decoded, the string led to a server in an abandoned military base in Nevada. The server had long since been wiped, but the implications were clear. This was no ordinary coin. Collectors began calling it the ghost dime. Not because it vanished, but because it haunted the coin community. The idea that a rogue piece of currency could exist, carrying unknown information, possibly government-grade encryption, or worse, was unsettling. Its price soared. By 2011, it had changed hands 3 more times. Each buyer was wealthier, more secretive. By 2015, it was said to be in the private vault of a European billionaire who used it as collateral in a multi-nation arms deal. The face value of the coin, 10 cents, was laughable. But insiders claimed it was used to broker a deal worth over $97 million. Hence, the coin earned a new name, the $97 million dime, but value wasn't just in the mystery. Some speculated the coin itself held embedded code to dormant financial accounts, Cold War-era slush funds stashed in untraceable bank ledgers. Others claimed it was a marker, a pass token between espionage agents operating under deep cover. If you held the coin, you held access to something unspoken. And in those circles, access is worth more than gold. Then, in 2017, the coin vanished again. An anonymous buyer, known only by their alias, Black Mercury, reportedly bought the dime for a private sum. No transaction records existed. The coin disappeared from all radar. Whispers said it had been smuggled into a private island vault somewhere near Madagascar, protected by biometric locks and armed guards. Others insisted it was melted down, destroyed, to keep its secrets buried forever. In 2020, a new twist surfaced. A retired mint worker, on his deathbed, gave an interview to an underground journalist. He spoke of Project Templar, the codename for the secret minting experiment in the 90s. He said the goal wasn't just anti-counterfeiting. It was about sovereignty. Creating a parallel monetary system, invisible to the world. The coin, he claimed, was a key, one of 12. The journalist tried to publish the story. The site was taken down in under an hour. The journalist disappeared 3 days later. Today, the coin remains missing. But stories of its return circulate. A coin dealer in Brazil claims to have seen it last year, in the hands of a nervous American tourist. A private collection in Dubai reportedly insured a 10-cent piece for $100 million. But no proof exists. Only shadows. So why does a small, unassuming 1997 dime carry a price tag of $97 million? Is it the physical rarity? The embedded technology? The hidden history of an experiment gone rogue? Or is it something deeper, an idea, a symbol, a legend passed down and traded like contraband between those who live in the cracks of the system? What gives a coin value isn't always its metal, its date, or its mint mark. Sometimes, it's the myth. The story. The silence in the spaces between facts. For every confirmed detail about the 1997 dime, a dozen more theories exist. Some say the original 12 dimes were marked with invisible ink, only visible under rare earth magnetic fields. Others believe the coins were prototypes for nanobot currency, miniature carriers of information, activated by electric current. One theory even suggests the coin contains a fragment of meteorite alloy, making it not just valuable, but extraterrestrial. The line between numismatics and mythology blurs with this coin, but the story isn't just about mystery. It's about obsession. One man, a former Wall Street banker turned recluse, reportedly spent over $14 million chasing the coin. He bought and destroyed over 9,000 1997 dimes in his hunt. His theory? Only one would ring with a perfect F-sharp tone when dropped on a marble floor. He claimed to have found it, briefly, in 2019, but it was stolen days later in a break-in that left no fingerprints, no footage, and no suspects. Another collector, this one an MIT physicist, devoted 6 years scanning over 400,000 dimes using custom-built microlens equipment. She believed the dime held a single embedded atom of tritium, emitting a faint energy signature detectable only at certain altitudes. Her research was shut down by federal agents. She now teaches chemistry in Alaska, never speaks of the coin. Whether or not the dime will ever surface again remains unknown. Some say it's buried under a baseball field in the Midwest. Others think it's been hidden in plain sight, in a museum donation box, protected by anonymity. A theory gaining traction recently suggests that the coin itself was a test not of technology, but of belief. A social experiment launched by the mint to observe human behavior. A decoy, designed to spark obsession that if that's true, then the coin is worth exactly what someone is willing to pay for it, and if someone's willing to pay $97 million, then perhaps it's not just a coin. It's a mirror. One that reflects the value we give to the past, to secrets, and to the treasures we believe exist just beyond reach. Collectors will continue to search. Stories will continue to swirl. And in a dusty box somewhere, maybe even your own drawer, a dime minted in 1997 might be waiting. Unassuming. Ordinary. But listen close. Watch for the glow. Feel the weight. Because legends often hide in plain sight, and sometimes, the smallest coin can carry the biggest fortune, even if that fortune is wrapped in mystery, riddled with danger, and whispered through the shadows of history. Let me know if you'd like a shorter version or want help turning this into a narrated video with background sounds. Next 2000, a seemingly ordinary coin was struck at the US Mint, small, light, and often overlooked. It was a one-dime coin, worth just 10 cents in the eyes of most. But behind its tiny frame and shiny surface lay a tale of rarity, mystery, and value that would one day captivate collectors around the globe. This is the story of that coin, the 2001 dime, a coin now known among a select few as the $2 million dime. The year 2000 wasn't just the beginning of a new millennium, it marked a shift in how Americans viewed the future. The Y2K bug had just passed without catastrophe, the internet boom was reshaping economies, and people were embracing digital technologies with enthusiasm. Amid this atmosphere of anticipation and advancement, coinage from the United States Mint carried a special kind of symbolism. The coins of 2000 represented both continuity and change. While they bore the same trusted faces and traditional designs, they were also among the first to be struck in a new age. What no one realized at the time was that one particular dime, seemingly no different from the rest, would someday shake the numismatic world. The Roosevelt dime, introduced in 1946 to honor the late President Franklin D. Roosevelt, had always been consistent in design. By 2000, the dime still bore Roosevelt's profile on the obverse and a torch, olive branch, and oak branch on the reverse, symbols of liberty, peace, and strength. It was not flashy or experimental like some commemorative coins. But sometimes, it is precisely this consistency that makes a rare variation so incredibly valuable. It began with whispers among collectors. A few sharp-eyed hobbyists noted that some 2000 dimes had unusual characteristics, slightly off-center strikes, peculiar finishes, or irregular edges. At first, these anomalies were dismissed as typical mint errors, perhaps worth a few extra dollars at most. But over time, patterns began to emerge. Certain dimes minted in Philadelphia and Denver appeared to have subtle differences not found in others. A coin dealer in Arizona discovered a 2000 P dime with an ultra-high relief strike, something rarely seen in modern coinage. Another collector in Ohio claimed he had a 2000 D dime that weighed slightly less than the standard 2.268 grams. Were these isolated flukes, or was there something more? As interest grew, experts began analyzing these coins under microscopes, comparing mint marks, examining the metal composition, and studying die patterns. One of the most shocking revelations came from a metallurgical test. A particular dime that had been acquired at a flea market in Florida was found to contain traces of 90% silver, a composition not used in dimes since 1964. This discovery raised a storm of speculation. Could it have been a test strike? A rogue mint worker's creation? Or perhaps a coin struck on a leftover silver planchet that had somehow escaped detection? Theories ran wild, and so did the prices. At an auction in 2015, one of the rare 2000 dimes fetched over $60,000. Another, graded MS-69 by a top-tier certification service, went for $85,000 2 years later. But the turning point came in 2022, when a private collector based in New York paid a staggering $2 million for a single 2000p dime. The reason? According to documentation provided with the coin, it had been struck twice, once with a Roosevelt dime die and once with a misaligned reverse die intended for an experimental quarter design. Whether the documentation was genuine or not, the coin had been authenticated as real, and its provenance traced back to a former mint employee. The sales shocked the numismatic world. A 10-cent coin, the smallest denomination still in regular circulation, had sold for the price of a luxury home. Coin forums erupted with speculation, envy, and enthusiasm. Everyone wanted to know, were there more out there? How could someone find one? Treasure hunters began scouring rolls of dimes from banks, garage sales, and coin shows. The dime, long dismissed as pocket change, suddenly had a new identity, as a potential jackpot, but the 2000 dime story doesn't end with monetary value. As researchers dove deeper, they uncovered fascinating layers of history behind the coin's production. The year 2000 had seen various changes at the U.S. Mint. New die engraving technologies were being tested. A batch of dies intended for proof coins was mistakenly used in circulation coinage at the Philadelphia facility. Some employees recalled increased experimentation with planchet suppliers. Others mentioned rushed production schedules due to increased demand from the introduction of the Sacagawea dollar. Amid all this activity, it's not hard to believe that mistakes, or unusual creations, slipped through. One of the most compelling theories came from a retired mint engineer who spoke anonymously. He claimed that during late 1999 and early 2000, a few prototype coins were struck to test new die hardening techniques. These prototypes included dimes with sharper reliefs, finer details, and even variations in edge reading. While they were never intended for public circulation, a handful may have been mistakenly released during a late-night shift when protocol was less strictly observed. If true, it would explain the unusual features found on the high-value dimes that collectors later uncovered. Another fascinating wrinkle involves the coin's public reception. Despite being minted in the billions, the Roosevelt dime had always taken a backseat to its flashier cousins, the penny with its Lincoln legacy, the quarter with its state and national park series, the dollar coins with changing portraits. Yet here was a dime from the dawn of a new century, quietly rewriting its story. Newspapers, blogs, and YouTube channels began telling the tale. The 2000 dime went from overlooked to legendary, its fame growing with each discovery and each wild auction price. But what makes this dime truly remarkable isn't just its value. It's the idea that something so small, so ordinary, could contain so much mystery. It's the realization that history isn't always written in grand monuments or famous speeches. It can also be stamped into a tiny coin, passed from hand to hand, lost in drawers and dropped in fountains. And sometimes, if you're lucky, found again in just the right light. Collectors today still dream of discovering their own $2 million dime. They study images of known specimens, memorize mint mark placements, and even carry magnifying glasses in case they spot something promising in everyday change. Some have turned the search into a full-time pursuit. Others see it as a fun weekend hobby. For all, the thrill is the same, the chance that, just maybe, one more of these rare dimes is out there waiting to be found, and that's the enduring magic of the 2001 dime. It represents more than a sudden fortune or a rare minting error. It's a symbol of hidden value, of history tucked in plain sight, of the chance that something extraordinary could lie within the most ordinary objects. From a pocket to a purse, from a gas station counter to a velvet-lined auction tray, its journey has been long, quiet, and ultimately legendary. It's possible we haven't heard the last of this coin. More examples may still surface. New details about its origin might emerge from long-sealed documents or forgotten conversations. Or perhaps one day, a child will find one in their grandfather's old coin jar and change their life forever. That's the beauty of coins like the 2001 dime. They connect generations, carry stories, and sometimes, carry surprises worth millions. So the next time you come across a dime, take a closer look. Not just for the gleam of silver or the whisper of rarity. Look for the story. You never know what history, mystery, and magic might be hiding in your pocket.